Hey everybody, welcome back for another training video, and this one is well overdue because I believe some of you don't know beans about beans. So we're going to cover a little bit today. There's a lot to cover, a lot of information. I'm going to try to break it down the best I can. So let's get started. History of coffee. So in 800 AD, an Ethiopian goat herder named Kaldi saw that his goats were eating these cherries. Surprise, coffee is a fruit, it is a cherry. And they were dancing around and hopping around. And so that's how coffee got started. And this may or may not be an actual picture of Kaldi to your right. About 1000 AD in Arabia, we have the first roasted coffee beans. In fact, the Arab people there would roast the beans, so they kind of had a monopoly on coffee for quite a long time. 1615, we get a coffee finally to Europe as a Venice merchant introduces it to the Dutch. And here in this country, Boston Tea Party. So that's actually important. 1773, we threw a lot of tea in the Chesapeake Bay in Boston because Britain was taxing the tea, but they weren't taxing the coffee. So that's why we drink a lot of coffee in this country. Finally, Brazil plantations are started in 1800. That's the growing process started on this hemisphere. And that's kind of how things got started. Today, coffee is the second most traded commodity. Only oil is traded more than coffee. Over a $2 billion business. So, cultivation. Let's talk about how the bean is grown. So again, the coffee, it comes from a cherry, which you can see over on the bottom picture. And then you can see the process there at the top as inside that cherry there are two little seeds. Those seeds are what we roast and produce coffee with. So, coffee is grown between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, basically around the equator and extended in that area. We need warm area. It's also grown between sea level and 7,000 feet. Coffee comes from a cherry. I think we've hammered that one home already. It has more of a pepper texture if you actually try to eat the cherry. Again, inside's the seed, 2 seeds per cherry, unless it's a pea berry. Now, a pea berry only has 1 seed. And some people believe the pea berry coffee is a little bit sweeter because it only has that 1 seed as opposed to the 2. And then again, coffee's grown around the world. In fact, for some countries, such as Colombian, it's their #1 export, or legal export, I guess you could say. So they actually they grade their coffee, and Colombia Supremo. Supremo's the highest grade they give to coffee. Similar to Kenya. Kenya, the AA after our Kenyan, is the highest grade they give to the coffee. So we're selling the best of the best, guys. Again, cherries are still primarily hand-picked, and we'll get a little bit more to the process of how it goes from a cherry to a seed here in a little bit. 2 types of beans. There is Arabica and there is Robusta. So what is the difference? Robusta is like the generic bean. It's grown at a lower altitude. You can pick the plant many more times per year. And it usually is kind of used like a filler a little bit. So everyone uses the Arabica, and then they mix in some of this filler, this Robusta coffee, to kind of, save on cost. And this would be your lower altitude. This is your Folgers, your Maxwell House, these kind of run-of-the-mill coffees. Not the best. So we'll use 100% Arabica beans. And not only do we use 100% Arabica beans, we use the top 2% of Arabica beans. So, and you see the 75%, 75% of the Arabica, or 75% of the beans used in the world are Arabica. We use 100% Arabica beans. The higher altitude the bean is grown at, it allows the bean to mature more slowly, gives it better quality, gives it more flavor. That's what we're after. That's why the Jamaican Blue Mountain is so expensive and so great. It's because it's grown at such a high altitude. The bean matures very slowly. You actually can taste a little sweetness to the bean, even though there are no calories. And again, all of our coffees, even our flavored coffees, there are 0 calories per cup. Our beans, again, are selected, and then they are washed to identify the best beans. Some beans do not meet our standards, and those are tossed out. And then the coffee is dried and then milled to remove the outer shells, the outer layers of the fruit, leaving just the bean. And guys, I know I'm covering this way fast, but I just want you to kind of have an idea of how some of this stuff works. So then coffee goes to the roasting process, okay? So, roasting process generally from 3 to 20 minutes, between about 380, 450 degrees. And a lot of things happen to the bean at this time, okay? So then the bean would be cooled and then packaged. So the bean's going to change from that green color to kind of that brownish tan color. It's going to lose some moisture. It's going to lose weight, and it'll actually expand. Kind of think of popcorn, right? The seed, then it expands, it loses a little bit of moisture, actually gets bigger. Kind of the same thing. The bean actually loses caffeine during this process. So your darker roast coffees actually have less caffeine than your other coffees. The bean changes from brown to black color. The oils come to the surface. This is really notable on our dark roast coffees that are roasted a little bit longer. You can see those beans are just really, really oily. If you look in the espresso hopper, you can see the oils kind of stick to the side of the espresso hopper. The sugars in the bean are caramelized as well. A lot of people make mistakes roasting process. We actually use a local roaster now, right here in Chicago. A lot of people make mistakes. They do a really good job. If you do not roast the bean, if you roast it at too low of a temperature, you get like this nut-like flavor. Not very good, okay? And if you roast it too long, I call this the Starbucks coffee. Sorry, guys. It tastes burnt. It tastes bitter. A lot of our customers come and tell us that the coffees taste, burnt, bitter in other places, and they like ours. Why? Because we take a lot of time in our bean selection, our bean roasting process. A little bit more on the roasting. There's 4 major roasts. We'll go from lightest roast to darkest roast. American roast. All of our flavors, our house blends, are an American roast, kind of a medium roast. It's your Colombian. This is our house blend. The Kenyan. All of our African coffees. A lot of our Central American coffees. All American roasts. Okay, kind of middle of the road flavor. Kind of roasted just in the middle. Not too hot, not too cold, right? Viennese roast. So this is a little bit darker coffee. We really don't carry a good Viennese roast at this time. I personally just think it tastes generic, so we do not carry it. We blend coffee instead. So, and we'll get more into blending coffee in a different video. I really can't cover everything today. There's just too much information. But next roast is a Viennese roast. French roast. You guys have heard of this. We have a French roast. We also have a French breakfast blend, which is a blend or a mixture of 3 or 4 different coffees to give us that French roast texture. The acid's a little bit lower, caffeine's a little bit lower. It exposes a few more of the complex flavors. You'll see that the beans are a little bit lighter. I mean, you really got to work to fill a 1 pound French roast into a 1 pound bag. It doesn't always fit perfectly, or the quarter pounds either. Beans are a little bit lighter in weight, we said, oily, and you guys can see all of that as well. Finally, Italian and espresso, the darkest of the darkest. Obviously, our espresso roast is a good example of this. We do have a few others as well, but essentially that's the 4 roasts. People want a dark roast, you're probably going to suggest a French roast. Some people do drink the espresso, that's okay. Generally, we want to give them a French or a dark roast. Did you know it takes 2,000 hand-picked cherries to make 1 pound of coffee? So there's your fun fact of the day. To caffeine or not to caffeine, that is the answer. Caffeine does a lot of good things. I'm not going to go into all of them. I just listed a few. But if you Google it, it does a lot of good things for your body. It's an antioxidant, helps with memory, helps with Alzheimer's, prevents cancer, helps with asthma, it's weight loss. Just a lot of great things. However, some people, it makes them a little jittery, and they can't sleep at night, whatever the case, so they switch to decaf. It's important to know that 80% of people who drink decaf also drink caffeinated coffee, so they still want a good product. In order to be classified as decaf, 97% of the caffeine needs to be removed. All of our coffees we remove 99% of the caffeine, so it's almost perfect. Other companies use a chemical process to remove the caffeine. There's 2 other processes. This video is already way too long, so I'm not going to bog you down with that. You need to know that we use water, which does not have any health effects that are bad. We use a water osmosis with or without a carbon filter, which is chemical free. So other companies use chemicals. Chemicals do bad things. We use water. Water doesn't do bad things. It's basically all you need to know about our decaffeination process. Fun fact, Sanka comes from the French word sans caffeine. They were the first company to have decaf. So some people will still say I want a Sanka, which basically just means decaf. Also, if you go to the gas station, you see the coffee just sitting there. The orange handle is always the decaf, and that's because Sanka's colors were orange, and they were the first persons to have decaf. So another fun-filled thought for you today. How to gain the bean skills. So you see people working at the bean bar, and a lot of you guys are intimidated about this. First thing you can do is ask questions. There's a whole pamphlet and information I can give you here. We can have a conversation on it. Ask questions and learn a little bit more. Each coffee we offer, each origin, even though it's a regular coffee, it actually has a different taste. So there's certain characteristics you need to know about each single coffee. Watch someone who is skilled. So if you see me at the bean bar, I know a few things. I can kind of watch how I do it. You can learn stuff. There's a few other people here who are really good at it. You can learn some stuff there. A few key thoughts. Smelling is selling. So if they smell the flavor of the coffee, they will generally buy the coffee. So don't be afraid to have them get a whiff of what we're selling. Suggestive sell. If they picked out 2 caramel coffees, maybe you should suggest a 3rd caramel coffee. Or if they picked out 2 fruity coffees, maybe you should suggest a 3rd one. Coffee club, make sure they can earn points toward a free pound. Really simple to sign up. If you don't know how to do that, we can help you with that. Finally, we'll leave you with storing coffee. We tell our guests not to refrigerate or freeze the coffee because you're going to caramelize those sugars. And the oils on the bean, you're going to lose that flavor. So we keep coffee in a airtight container away from strong odors, right? I don't know if you ever made tacos at home, but if you have tacos at home and you put tacos in the refrigerator, and you put other things in the refrigerator, everything kind of tastes like tacos. So we don't want that. Keep it away from strong odors, away from extreme heat, away from extreme cold, and you'll be just fine. Also, grind it when you need it. It's another good tip, which gives us we can also sell a grinder that way. So again, I need to do another video. I know this one was a little shaky, a lot of information. There's just too much to really cover, guys, so I really appreciate your time. Hopefully this helps a little bit. We will have more videos to come. Take care. Keep learning. Have a nice day.